iPads are useful for their purpose, but they are no substitute for brains.
All right, here we go.
I have to say, well done, Ray. Well done. Well played, my adversary. Well played.
Phoenix isn't gay, but if he was, he'd pick Fremont.
Oh, yeah, he'd be living down there with you in the bunker, man. Woo!
Once you go free, you'll always do the Z.
Like one day I'm not going to Duncan, and you could get a controller, a new Xbox, possibly even a cord.
And now here's your host for this week's show.
Welcome to BGFG, episode 320. I'm your host, Chris Phoenix, and joining me, as always, is, well, not Fremo. Fremo's having it tough right now down south. It's getting crazy. It is really getting crazy down there. Everybody's kind of worried about COVID and not worried about COVID and wearing masks and not wearing masks. It's getting strange. And as we always say on BGFG, just stay safe, do what you think is right, and try not to piss off everybody in the world. There's Karens everywhere. So, again, on BGFG, what we usually do is we start off with the people that aren't coming down for breakfast. And sometimes it's something you expect, and sometimes it isn't. And with COVID, we try to avoid doing this for a while because it's just there's so many deaths going on, and a lot of them are related to COVID, and some of them aren't. A lot of people that are passing away have underlying issues that cause the death. There's no easy way to say any of this stuff, but we figured we'd bring it back a little bit, and because there's a couple that we got to try to bring light to it a little bit in some ways, and bring it away from the negative all the time. I mean, we're going to do enough of the negative talk and hopefully close out the show with some positive and funny stuff. But unfortunately, not coming down for breakfast is Kamala the Giant, James Harris. Now, you'll see the picture if you watch the video. If not, Kamala was a wrestler in the 80s, 90s. He's been pretty much everywhere. He unfortunately passed away. He passed away at 70 years old, and he did pass away of COVID. But he had so many underlying issues. He had both of his legs amputated. I mean, there was a lot going on. But when he got COVID, that was kind of like the final straw, unfortunately. It's too bad. And the other not coming down for breakfast is that beloved rat-themed children's casino called Chuck E. Cheese. They said they're not going to close all the stores, but they're going to close the majority of them. I haven't been there in years. I mean, I took my first kid there when they were very young, and even then it was just garbage. I mean, it was garbage on top of garbage. The pizzas, you know what? The pizza was okay, but it was definitely not gourmet. And a lot of the animatronics and things were just looking shoddy and old. And at the time, it was the place to go. But then bounce houses and monster golfs and all those sorts of indoor activities started happening. And Chuck E. Cheese kind of lost its flair, for lack of a better term. So it's definitely weird seeing all of these places and things kind of going under. And again, with the lockdown, businesses are moving in a different direction now. Even the retail industry they saw significant jumps, but they know that they can't maintain that type of money. And now they're trying to divert it to a different idea coming into the holidays. And that's retail. But other companies, smaller mom and pop businesses, unfortunately, couldn't survive. And I can absolutely understand that. A lot of martial arts schools and gyms and things like that, even people I know personally that just started out, they were barely a year into their business. Now they don't have a business anymore, and it's a tough call. You also have people that have had businesses and rented spaces for different things, whether it's a gig economy or whatever you want to call it. And now rent's coming due, and all of these things are in court. And I know personally that the court is inundated. I know a few people that work downtown, and there's a lot of evictions and things like that happening now because the crisis is over. And again, there's always two sides to every story, and the truth will lie in the middle. You have the people that are sitting there saying, well, you shouldn't take me out. You shouldn't, you shouldn't evict me or anything. Well, you did get a lot of money from the government. You did get a boosted unemployment if you were working already. And what did you do with that? I can tell you, working in retail, that a lot of these people came in and bought senseless shit. 65-inch TVs for no reason. They already had a TV that worked, or they used that money to buy a new phone, a new high-end phone. I understand that you might need a phone, or I understand that you might need a TV, but just because you have that extra money, you got to look at the long term. And I don't want to get into a whole accounting thing, but I mean, I lived, early in my life like any, teenager, 20-something does. You might not manage your money properly. One of my kids just got his first job, and like his first 2 checks, he blew. And I knew he was going to do that. And I told him, I was like, yeah, that's true. I said, but now you have no money. So now you have to start thinking about a plan of saving. Because when that day comes and all your friends are sitting there and they all want to go do something, or they want to buy something, or they want to enjoy themselves, they were able to afford a ticket to a game or something, but you can't buy anything at the concession because that was all your money. Well, you should be that person that has that extra money to do those things. Or you see that really big sale on a phone that you've wanted for a while, or a device that you wanted for a while, and you go get it because you got the money. You don't just, again, I don't want to get into a whole speech about proper saving and shit like that. That's just not what I want to do. But what I do want to do is get into the news, because not coming down for breakfast kind of flows into something else that we have in the news this week.
BGFG News. You heard it here third.
So first up in the news today, Toshiba. Now, we've had Toshiba products for a very long time. People know Toshiba computers. I can tell you from working in the computer industry, they're probably, in my opinion, they're probably one of the worst hard drives to ever be on the planet. I mean, these things failed all the time, again, in my opinion. But Toshiba did last 35 years. So for 35 years, this company was, out there. And then they sold their remaining 19% of the company to their Dynabook brand, to Sharp. And that's pretty much it. I mean, before that, in 2018, they sold 80% of the company to Sharp. And now, 35 years later, or not 35 years later, but 35 years, they sold their remaining 19% of their Dynabook series to Sharp. So that's it. Their T1100 was the first computer way back in 1985. And I've worked on some Toshibas. They're not all completely crap. The majority of them are. I thought they were very much economy notebooks or laptops, because they were okay. There was never anything like great about them at all. I mean, I never saw it. I mean, you had a Toshiba, you liked it, and that was it. The hard drive was probably going to fail eventually. Can't tell you how many of them I pulled out right on a bench right in front of somebody, opened up the back in the day. You could flip it open, those different compartments, take out the hard drive, and sure enough, it wasn't posting or moving or clicking, or it was clicking. And I'd throw another hard drive in there, reinstall the operating system, done deal. So goodbye Toshiba. It's been real. Now, hopefully, you'll find some other. They're supposedly still going to make hard drives, but I really don't see the point, because their hard drives are really absolute crap. The elephant in the room this week really is TikTok, and TikTok is it's gonna be a while for this segment. So TikTok was formerly known as Musical.ly, and it was a social media platform that allows you to make short little clips, kind of like a karaoke. A lot of it was karaoke, and a lot of the dances you see on mainstream media commercials and stuff, those weird dances that people are doing in what looks to be a phone frame, that's a lot of times coming from TikTok, and that's kind of what they were there. It's also owned by a Chinese company named ByteDance, or ByteDance rather. They make social media apps specific for different regions around the world, and there's a lot of them. They have a lot of different brands from all around the world, all doing pretty much the same thing as TikTok, just under a different name. Unlike Vine, that closed, and I liked Vine. I think Vine was pretty cool. Unlike YouTube, Instagram, TikTok doesn't feel dominated by micro celebrities. I mean, anybody can jump on there. There's celebrities on there, but anybody can get popular for doing anything. They're very short clips. It's very good. Now, it is concerning because under 13 kids are setting up social media accounts, which we've gone on at length at BGFG talking about how 13-year-old kids probably shouldn't be on these type of things. I mean, you have Fortnite and Roblox, and people always talk about Fortnite and Roblox. They're two very popular. I can tell you because, again, I'm in the industry. Almost every kid comes in and they have that sort of thing. Now, you combine that with them watching things on YouTube, like, I need this downloaded, I need to do this, and this is what I have to do with this. They're downloading a lot of things and probably hearing things that they shouldn't hear. Again, we're always trying to protect kids. And I agree that at a certain age, you have to allow them to experience and see and hear certain things. But the bigger issue, and could be damaging to TikTok, is whether it'll be able to keep up with content filtering, takedown requests, and handle the security issues. Again, it's a Chinese-based company that they really don't care. So one thing you need to know about a lot of these social media companies like Facebook, and you know how much we like to bash Facebook here, TikTok automatically captures huge amounts of information from its users. Huge amounts when you allow it. Whether you allow pictures, access to microphone, it just allows you to do huge amounts of things. Data location, browsing the search histories, and it threatens to allow what they're saying, and I put this in quotes, that it threatens to allow the Chinese Communist Party access to Americans' personal proprietary information, potentially allowing China to track the locations of federal employees, contractors, build dossiers of personal information for blackmail, and conduct corporate espionage. That is all true. That is factual. If you allow companies, and it could be any company, okay, I'll get to that in a minute, but it could be any company. In this particular case, we're talking about TikTok and a Chinese-owned company. And the Chinese are very, very forthcoming in saying, we take what we want. We take the information. That's our right. That's what we do. That's what we do in our country. And if you want to use something that's based in our country, then you're going to have to deal with that too. Well, suddenly, at the beginning of August, President Trump gave 45 days, issued an executive order that would ban TikTok and WeChat, which is another one. Again, to a lot of Asians, I guess you could say, because, again, China, you know, a lot of that area, they use WeChat for everything. I mean, everything. So when they put a ban on that, a lot of people in this country that are talking to friends and family overseas aren't going to be able to do that anymore. And this was a quick and easy way for them to do it. And the only caveat was if you sell TikTok to an American company. I can't get behind that. I can't. If you want to ban it from the country, that's something that should be voted upon, unless you come up with straight proof and say, look, we have to block this because this is exactly what it's doing, which they kind of have done. But to say that you need to sell a portion of your company that's used in this country to an American company, I don't know if I can get behind that. I really don't. Microsoft said that they were going to do it. Now, Microsoft, and again, I want to say this, Microsoft has got a lot of weird shit going on. For instance, with the congressional hearing with all the major tech companies, Microsoft was the only one that wasn't there. Their go-to stuff, say Windows itself, Windows 10, they've pretty much said there's never going to be another Windows. This is it. They're just going to build off of this. And it is a good operating system. It's a really good operating system. It's not a Mac, but it's good. And they're not going to be building any more of that. Their Outlook, their Office programs are mediocre. They haven't done anything new, and nobody really uses any of that stuff anymore. For instance, back in the day, you'd have aunts and grandmothers and even people that you work with. You'll get these stupid emails, and they'll have all sorts of color backgrounds and maybe holiday wreaths and shit on it. Well, if your computer doesn't have that font or that GIF or that image or that picture, sometimes it just won't come through. If you save that document just like that and you open it in a different computer that doesn't have those fonts and doesn't have, it becomes just a garbled mess. So a lot of their products kind of, you had to stay on the products. And again, Apple does that too, but you have to stay with Windows and everybody had to have the same thing. And their Outlook program, their mail program, I have always felt it was way overkill for everything. In a corporate, huge business atmosphere, yes, it works. Everything else, it does absolutely horribly. And they're having nothing but problems with it. If you go to a forum or Microsoft's website itself and look at their knowledge base, there is nothing but issues going on with Outlook, and it doesn't look like they're going to fix them anytime soon. I've had people come to my counter that had complete emails just erased, gone out of there. And they're saved, not the ones in the cloud. If they go to their Comcast email or whatever, it's still there. But the stuff that they have saved in their computer just gone, and it's not from anything being done, at least not that I can track down. So the idea of Microsoft saying it needs to buy it, and then they were like, yeah, we'd buy it. As soon as they said that, they expressed their interest in TikTok's business for U.S., Canada, New Zealand, and Australia. TikTok's U.S. business claims about 100 million users, and they have a value of about $20 billion to $50 billion. So it's big business, and the fact that Microsoft wants it, it makes me laugh because it was suggested that Microsoft takes it. Microsoft steps up and says, yeah, not too shabby. Yeah, that sounds good. Let's give that a whirl. And then the big yam turns around and says, yeah, if you do buy it, we'd like some payment, kind of like a finder's fee for the government. What the? What? Douchebag. Why would you say that? Not only did you try to force a Chinese company to sell off their brand that's making $20 to $50 billion to a U.S. company for security reasons, which I get, security reasons, don't get that you're forcing them to do that. You could just build another one. And then you're going to turn around, and once a company turns around and says, yeah, we're gonna talk about buying it. I think we're going to buy it. Then you turn around and say, hey, I'm going to need a finder's fee for that, pal. This is not your company, okay? This is the country. You can't... God, that annoys me. Twitter wanted to buy it, and then they were like, what? I ain't dealing with this government bullshit. Facebook wanted it, but let's face it, that should never happen. Facebook, before we move on, because I can't go without complaining about Facebook at least once during a show. Just to let you know that Facebook, again, in their evilness, iOS 14 is coming out soon on your iPhones. And Facebook is pretty pissed off because the anti-tracking and security features that are built into the new iOS, which are really good, very secure, even more so than before, and that was the most secure phone on the planet, in my opinion. But now it's getting even to the point where Facebook's app will lose, they've said it, look it up. They said they're going to lose 50% of their revenue in ads if they put it on iOS. 50% of ads. So when you're scrolling and shit, 50% are ads. 50% of the things you're looking at on Facebook are ads. They're saying they're going to lose 50% of their ad revenue. So what do you think you're doing when you're scrolling through that Facebook app and you're clicking on the links that your friends put up? If they're even your friends, if they even put up the link. That's all ad revenue for Facebook. Facebook has, I can go on and on about Facebook. I hate Facebook. But let's flip it around a little bit. So with everything going on in the world, it just, I shouldn't be smiling about this, but I've heard a lot of Bible thumpers talking about how it's the end of times. And I've had to, people that I've known decently, I've had to turn around and say, hey, can I talk to you for a minute? I don't know if you should be telling people it's the end of times. The end of fucking times. You can't say stuff like that. That's a major thing, man. But I have to give the devil their due. No pun intended? Pun intended? There is some strange shit going on. I mean, has anybody seen any locusts? Because I'm waiting for that next thing to happen and rivers turning red with blood. Because I say this because we've had earthquakes. You have, you have tsunamis going on out at sea. You have hurricanes happening on the East Coast. You have tornadoes in the Midwest, and then you have massive earthquakes and wildfires in the West, on the West Coast. So yeah, there's times where you might be sitting there going, should I be putting a bag over my head and grabbing a towel just in case some shit's going to happen? It's insane. There's a 5.1 magnitude earthquake near North Carolina near the Virginia border recently. There's been earthquakes that outside of Sparta that they haven't had since 1916. You have heavy rains and floods in Yemen. You have Australia had the worst flood in 29 years. Ebola and measles are outbreaked in the Congo. Not that a lot of people go there, but it's a measles and outbreak. You have heat waves. You have flash floods. I mean, yeah, we got some shit going on. 2020 has been a really bad fucking year. I'm waiting to get the fuck out of 2020 at this point because it's getting real bad. So again, I didn't want to go too deep into it. Some of this news is a little bit older because we've been running around doing different things with the reopening of everything, schools and everything else. Everybody's been a little busy, so I haven't been able to get to this. But that was the kind of like the news that I wanted to bring up this week. And in doing so, while I was going through all this and writing show notes and such, I came across another song by one of my favorite groups, Run the Jewels. And I know that we did Run the Jewels before, and just this song, if you listen to the lyrics, and again, if you go to, I put the link in the show notes, so when we post the show notes, you can click on the link and follow along with the lyrics. I know it sounds kind of childish and stupid, but the lyrics, myself, Freemo, everybody at BGFG, we're really big on lyrics. So there's always songs that have a good beat, good rhythm, but when it's good lyrics, it makes sense. And I think Run the Jewels, Walking in the Snow is perfectly appropriate for what we're talking about today. So let's get into some music, have some fun with that, and then we're going to get into some a little bit more fun stuff that I can poke fun at, which I'm looking forward to. So let's get into Run the Jewels, and we'll be back on the other side.
Get a dose of dirty cold to go, been cold since cold flow. Got a wire to enlarge and I'll set a fire down below. I hang it up when you say sorry, didn't know. Probably got a year 10 to go, so let's go. I don't really know how to go slow.
Just got done walking in the snow.
Goddamn, that motherfucker's cold. Hey, you in the wrong mode, you open and close, you know holes, no go. This whole world's a shit mode, built to the brim like Gitmo. When you think it don't get mowed low, with limbo to the sticks on flow. All oppression's born of lies, I don't make the rules, I'm just one guy. All due respect of getting spit on's how respect is now defined. Hungry for truth, but you got screwed and drank the Kool-Aid. There's a line, it ends directly at the edge of a mass grave that's their design. Funny fact about a cage, they're never built for just one group. So when that cage is done with them and you still pour it, come for you. The newest, lowest on the totem, with golly G you have been used. You have to build a death machine that down the line will kill you too. Pseudo-Christians, y'all are different. Kids in prisons, they the same shit. Even one scrap of what Jesus taught connected, you feel different. What a disingenuous way to piss away existence, I don't get it. I say you lost your goddamn minds if y'all possess one to begin with.
Just got done walking in the snow. Goddamn that motherfucker cold. Just got done walking in the snow. Goddamn that motherfucker cold. Just got done walking in the snow. Goddamn that motherfucker cold. Just got done walking in the snow. Goddamn that motherfucker cold. Yeah, ho, gangsta boo, run the jewel. We back on our shit, and it's cold as fuck.
The way I see it, you probably free is from the ages 1 to 4. Around the age of 5, you shipped away for your body to be stored. They promise education, but really they give you tests and scores. And they predicting prison population by who's scoring the lowest. And usually the lowest scores the poorest, and they look like me. And every day on the evening news, they feed your fear for free. And you so numb, you watch the cops choke out a man like me. Until my voice goes from a shriek to whisper, I can't breathe. And you sit there in house on couch and watch it on TV. The most you give is a Twitter rant and call it a tragedy. But truly the travesty, you've been robbed of your empathy, replaced it with apathy. I wish I could magically fast forward the future so then you can face it and see how fucked up it'll be. I promise I'm honest, they coming for you the day after they coming for me. I'm Rita Chomsky, I'm Reed Bukowski, I'm laying low for a week. I said something on behalf of my people and I popped up in WikiLeaks. Thank God that I'm covered, the devil can smother, and you know the evil don't sleep. Dick Gregory told me a couple of secrets before he lay down in his grave. All of us serve the same masters, all of us nothing but slaves. Never forgetting the story of Jesus, the hero was killed by the state.
Just got done walking in the snow. Goddamn that motherfucker cold. Just got done walking in the snow. Goddamn that motherfucker cold. Just got done walking in the snow. Goddamn that motherfucker cold. Just got done walking in the snow. Goddamn that motherfucker cold.
Who really wanna run it with the Jew runners? Go hellfire hot in a new summer. It's cold winter, baby, and a cool summer. I suicide bomber in a blue Hummer. Emerge at the side, out of blues on them.
Bad news coming Tucson. Three beats like a wet dot chew on them. Got a stroke roll cool on them, move on them.
We be the heroes, the breakers, the chains, and the muscles of locks. You be the suckers supporting the bitches that talk to the cops.
This the Umanica turning and facing a fuck up on rock. I'm not so sure opportunities knocking this product the law.
Word to the old school tape decks. I get radio Raheem respect. My Nike pin is sacred, similar to the Ghostface bracelet.
Frying in a hole, oh no joke. How to go bro, just off smoke. Fuck what we gonna do, non-smoke. Get a job, play the role, be adults. Nah, I'ma do me. Arigato, gato, 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 gato.
First of all, they cheating. Because they're one of them black and the other one white. So if you don't like them, you automatically racist.
Love me some Run the Jewels. I do. I don't care what anybody else says. I like them. So let's get into stick style.
Gaming.
So first up in the gaming news, and there's a good amount because we have PlayStation 5 coming out and Xbox Series X. Again, they're both, look, every year they come out, and if you're new to this or you're making your first purchase, maybe your first big purchase, like you're not getting a hand-me-down or something, like you're planning on this. So if this is your first venture into gaming consoles in the new generation, really, they're always about even on everything. Stats-wise, and this year is no different. They're both being powered by AMD, like me, and they're both equal. Now, there's always going to be something better about one and better about the other. For instance, Xbox does cross-platform very well. They do cloud services very well. Your game that you have on there, providing that you have the proper live account and it's set up correctly, everything is just seamless. If I log into my gamer account someplace else, my game save should be there if that person has that game in their Xbox or owns that game. So it's really nice. PlayStation takes it differently because they want to conserve their cloud space. I get that. And you have to physically upload a game before you leave, and then you can download the game via your account when you get to the person's house. So it's not that bad. You can still do the whole hard drive or USB game save. I don't know. It's not needed anymore. It's really like a cloud-based, which we'll get to more cloud stuff later. But right now, what we're talking about is the exclusivities that each game has. I don't disagree with exclusive stuff. It's just the way it is. God of War is only on PlayStation. Gears of War is only on Xbox. Halo's only on Xbox. There's a lot of exclusivities, and there was a fighting game, I want to say Mortal Kombat, but I don't think it was. There was a fighting game a while ago that one console had Yoda. I think it was Xbox, possibly. And then PlayStation had Darth Vader. And again, you can interchange those. I don't remember which ones were which. But those were exclusive to that. And it's one thing to have an exclusive game. It's a different thing to have the same game on all platforms than have exclusive pieces on every single platform. I don't disagree with that. There's a lot of complaining going on right now about how there shouldn't be exclusives per titles on a game unless that game is exclusive to that console. I disagree because, again, it's going to drive sales to a particular unit. That's not a bad thing. But it's also, everybody's complaining about these exclusive things, yet it doesn't fucking matter. Because eventually when the game goes gold, and all games do, whether they announce it goes gold or not, they all technically go gold. Once they go gold, all the downloads come. Look at stuff like Borderlands 2 or, older Mortal Kombat games, I think, do it. Where once it goes gold and you get the game, you get all the downloadable content with it. It comes with it. So you don't have to really worry about too much. So the Marvel Avenger game that's coming out, and they're kind of moving it all around. You have Verizon, Intel, and Virgin Media all seem to have some sort of specialized skins that you can get if you're part of Intel or Verizon or Virgin Mobile. But Spider-Man will be exclusive only to PlayStation, which people are just livid about. You can't. Xbox and PC, this is the problem I have with this. And again, I have so many problems with the Avengers game anyway. But Spider-Man is going to be exclusive to PlayStation, and they're not giving Xbox or PC any exclusive people, which I think is wrong. Now, the reason why they did that, and before anybody else gets all pissy about it, Spider-Man's partially owned by Sony still. So they have the right to put it on their console. They own that console. They own the rights to Spider-Man. So it kind of makes sense to have them put that on there. But I disagree with... I disagree with not having any exclusive characters on Xbox or PC. I think that's wrong. You should make it somewhat fair. If they're going to get that one, get a very cool one, have it made, and put it in. Or maybe you have a DLC created for later. Bump that forward. Bring one character or something for PC and bring another character for the Xbox. Eventually, everybody will have it, I'm sure. I'm sure that someday there'll be an agreement that Spider-Man will be allowed on there. But Sony's very tight with that licensing because that's a moneymaker to them. All right, let's get moving on. So one of the big things that everybody's talking about right now is the Google, Apple, and Fortnite issue. And I want to kind of bring stuff out to that so that other people can speak about it properly, I guess you could say. There's so many kids out there, so many people that are going to be listening to the show that have kids that play Fortnite. And it usually costs us a shit ton of money because they're buying V-Bucks. So they're buying V-Bucks to earn things in the game, which, again, cool. That's great. The problem here is that on Apple's ecosystem, now, there's some things we have to discuss first. For instance, Apple iOS, whether you play games on it or not. And again, mobile games are hit or miss. Bigger games, AAA titles, don't usually work on iPhones, sometimes Android, sometimes on tablet devices because of the size. But outside of that, AAA games really don't good. So it's more casual games or add-ons to your game. So for instance, I think the latest Need for Speed game, you could download the app and change your color of your car and things like that, and maybe change your outfit, and that will upload to the game. So when you go to play the game again, all those changes will be there. That's cool. A companion app, that's what it's called. The companion apps are very cool. So iOS, Apple's iPhone ecosystem, is very strong. It's very solid. The reason why they do that is for a couple of different reasons. Mostly security. So on an Android phone, you can you can go to Google Play Store or you can sideload apps. Sideload apps mean you just go to a website and it'll have an app for you to download. The problem with that is that it's very unsecure. There's been so many viruses, rootkits, all sorts of garbage that comes through with sideloading. But Android still does it because it's the last open platform phone service. iPhone has a massive stake in the market. Massive. For casual games as well as AAA games. Plus they have their own games thing, which even they know sucks. But you can get a game, get it approved. The only thing is on Google Play Store and Apple, the big thing that they're talking about is that Fortnite was kicked off because you could buy V-Bucks on the website and it'll upload to your game and you could play that game on iOS. Apple has a strict policy in their game store that if you put a game into the market, or pretty much any app, they have to make in-purchase apps, and those in-purchase apps, as has been well documented, Apple takes 30%. So that's been a problem because people are able to buy V-Bucks outside and then bring it into the game that's inside the Apple ecosystem. Apple isn't getting their take. That's what people hear. That's all people hear. And that is true, but you need to look at the bigger picture. For instance, that 30%, which people always hawk on, that 30%, yes, Apple takes 30% of all purchases, in-app purchases. They do. That's how they make money. But look at the amount. That's how they make money. Guess what? Google Play Store does the same thing. Guess what? Sony does it. Microsoft does it. Steam does it. I'm pretty sure Steam does it. Almost every company takes money from in-app purchases or in-game purchases. Most of them are about 30%. That's the way it goes. So when you look at a game store like on Destiny or something, and you look at it and you go, my God, I got to buy 500 coins, but it's going to cost me, more than I want. Or I'm not getting, for $20, I'm only getting a short amount. I should be getting a lot more V-Bucks or coin or rubies or whatever the money exchange is. You feel like you should be in more. And the reason why is because they sometimes have to add a little bit to it so that the other company can make their 30%. That's what people aren't telling you about this. They're also not telling you that Apple's ecosystem is very, very strong. The phone is solid and locked. And this is another way. Yes, they're taking 30%, but if you're making in-app purchases and that purchase doesn't go through, Apple's ecosystem can easily tell whether you made that purchase or not. They can easily tell whether you need a refund or not. There's no side loading. There's no, I bought it at this site and it won't load. There's none of that because it's all built in. Now, I'm not saying that as an Apple lover, I'm not saying that Apple's completely innocent on this shit either. Not at all. Apple's got another problem, and that's that no other gaming company can go in there. Like none. So Microsoft's xCloud that everybody's looking forward to, including myself, that I can play my game, say Forza 8 when it comes out. I can play my Forza game on pretty much any app. I can play it on my iPhone, I can play it on my iPad, my PC, I can play it on my Xbox. That's going to become very difficult because Apple does not allow xCloud, doesn't allow Google Stadia, doesn't allow NVIDIA's. It doesn't allow any of those through there. And their argument, again, Facebook's been trying to get theirs through just consistently for about 2 or 3 years, I think. And it's not just because, Facebook games suck, but their argument is that Facebook has a collection of games that you're buying or purchasing or downloading on Facebook, and then it translates into your app. Apple doesn't like that because, again, they can't vet any of these things. Don't look at it as they're not getting their money. That's part of it, but a very small part, because Apple prides themselves on the fact that their operating system works flawlessly all the time because they keep control of it. That's how it runs so well, because they keep control of it. You can hear all about people that spend way too much money on screen repairs and how the phone costs this much money outright. You're correct. They are expensive, but it is a luxury item, and you are getting a luxury item. Take AppleCare or not, you still have a luxury item. And 90% of the people, I dare say 95% of the people, never have an issue with a phone ever. That's huge. That's massive. When you get Android phones, and I see them all the time with corrupted operating systems, they downloaded this thing, they changed the fonts here, they changed the fonts there, and it doesn't work right. None of that ever happens on an iPhone. It just doesn't. Facebook can't get their game app onto iOS because it's just crappy games from Facebook. They're not even vetted. They're just nasty, and they're filled with malware and spy items. They spy it in your shit. They do. Say if it sounds stupid, I don't care. But it cracks me up because they're being portrayed as a really bad company, and they're not. They're literally protecting everybody else. It's just that they're the first $2 trillion company in the United States. Of course they're going to get ragged on, and they're going to get looked at with a microscope. And they don't care because they do what they want to do. Moving on. So Epic set up a website in all of this. And I just wanted to read a quote from it because it's true and not true. So and I quote, Apple's policies are so restrictive that they block gaming services like Microsoft's xCloud, NVIDIA GeForce Now, and Google Stadia from existing on iOS. Apple's policies would have even blocked the World Wide Web if it had invented it after the iPhone, because Apple policies disallow running code not reviewed by Apple, accepting payments directly from customers, and accessing content not reviewed by Apple, all fundamental features of the Internet. These policies, together with Apple's chilling enforcement strategy, strictly impede innovation and invention of entirely new kinds of apps, games, and businesses. I find that false. Extremely false. That is not true. It is true that xCloud, GeForce Now, Google Stadia are not allowed on iOS right now. And they're not. As for Apple's policies even blocking the World Wide Web, that's a little dramatic. I don't think so. I understand what they're saying, that if the iPhone came first, they say, well, you can't surf the internet with that. I don't find that to be true at all. That wouldn't happen. But that one line right there. Because Apple's policies disallow running code not reviewed by Apple. Yeah. They didn't review the code. Therefore, they have no idea what is in that code. It could be malicious. It could not be malicious. Who knows? But they're not being even allowed to review it. They review things and they'll come back and say, look, there's a hole here, or there's a hole there, or there's something else. That is true. And it should be like that. Google should do that too for Android. Next thing, accepting payments directly from customers and accessing content not reviewed by Apple. Again, yes, absolutely. If you get paid directly by the customer, there's no proof that they did that. Now they're going to call Apple and say, this app doesn't work anymore because they said I didn't pay and I did. What proof does Apple have? Apple doesn't have any proof. They can't do it. They just can't do it. It's insane. And now, on Fortnite, Season 4 is all Marvel characters. And if there's people that play that only on iOS, they're screwed. They're never going to see it. It's just not going to happen. Not going to happen at all. Okay, let's get into For What It's Worth. So first up in For What It's Worth, I just thought, and again, For What It's Worth is basically a segment about nothing. It's just crap that I found here and there that interests me or Freemo, and we put it up there, and it's just, it may be news, it may not be news. I don't know. I just put it in the bottom. So first up is, ironically, and you'll see it on the website, on the video feed. So my wife and I have been suddenly getting into pop vinyls a lot. And we love Star Wars pop vinyls, and we're getting hooked on it. But we're trying to control ourselves and not spend a lot of money. But we usually have a pretty good eye on different things and what to get. And I found a listing of the Star Wars Funko Pop vinyls that are super, super duper popular. And so I figured I'd give a quick 10 count, of the top 10 that are on the site. So the first one's Greedo. And again, Greedo, got shot by Han shot first. Greedo is worth $550 right now, which I thought was hugely impressive. Qui-Gon Jinn, which, again, is so funny because a lot of these I've seen or have held in my hand, some of them. Qui-Gon Jinn, $750 for a pop vinyl. That's just holographic Darth Vader. I know you've seen it. You might have seen the glow-in-the-dark stuff. This is very similar. It does glow in the dark, $760. A lot of these are exclusives at conventions, but you can get them online. Han Solo with the Stormtrooper outfit, $820. $820. Boba Fett from the droids, $840. Luke Skywalker as a Stormtrooper. Again, if you have the Han Solo Luke Skywalker set. And again, if I saw this in the store or I was able to buy this when it first came out, I would have bought that because that's two iconic characters dressed in the way on the scene when they're both in Star Wars Episode 4 when they're both in their Stormtrooper outfits. Luke Skywalker's $850 on that. A 501st Clone Trooper, $950. $950. Shadow Troopers, over $1,000. The top three are crazy. So a Shadow Trooper in all black, which again was one of those things, it was a Comic-Con type thing, $1,200. $1,200. Chewbacca, flocked. Now, I've seen this one. The flocked stuff has like velvet fur. It's got fur on it. It's kind of glued on there. It's called flock. I've seen a bunch of them, and I've never touched it because the wife and I were always like, oh my God, if we take that out of the thing, it's going to be flock everywhere. But the flocked Chewbacca is $1,400. And then the hottest one right now that you just, I wish I had it. A holographic Darth Maul. So it glows in the dark. $4,770 worth right now. That's crazy. That's a lot. That's a lot of money. I don't know if I could do that. That is a shit ton. Moving on. Georgia. So not too long ago, there was a Georgia teen. And in the video, you'll see that there's a picture that hit social media of a teen that took a picture of her newly opened school. This was like a month or two ago. And nobody's wearing masks. There's no social distancing. And again, like I said in the beginning of the show, we were going to talk about it. Look, social distancing in the schools is not happening. I know so many people I work with that are college students, and so many of them are upset and scared because they're being forced to go back to school physically. There's no real option for them. Most of the colleges that around my area that I've talked to the students there tell me that they have at least one floor of a dorm that's completely isolated right now for COVID victims. It's like, come on, really? You're going to do that? Did we not recognize what happened on cruise ships about putting people in close proximity like that are infected? It's a bad idea. And a lot of these people, well, this girl took a picture of her school and was upset, rightfully so. I get upset at work when I see people without masks. It's not that, look, it's your right to not wear a mask. I get it. I have the right not to serve you because simply it's too much jeopardy for me. My family, I have autoimmune people that live in my household, or autoimmune deficient. And I just can't be around those. So I take the precautions I need to take, 6 feet apart, wearing my mask all the time, wearing gloves, wiping down everything all the time. I'm taking those precautions, and so far, so good. But don't make it harder for me, please. Don't come in and cough or spit or any of that stuff. When you're in an atmosphere like that and you're just talking, if you put your hand in front of your face, you will actually feel your breath. That's all it's preventing. It's not preventing the disease from getting to you. It's preventing you from spreading it. You combine a mask with 6 feet, odds are nobody's going to get sick. and it'll be all over before you know it. But people just simply aren't doing that. And this is a good example. The schools are the worst culprits right now, and I don't understand why schools are being pushed to open so badly. I get it, the economy, and I get it. You need those people to come off of unemployment and go back to work. But at the same time, you're going to jeopardize kids for that? There's no safe way to teach kids, not to mention the elementary schools. Shit. You know little Johnny's going to be going, I got COVID, here, and chasing other kids around the school. It's going to happen. It's inevitable. But you want to be assholes and continue to do that. Well, this girl took the picture, and she turned around and got fired. She got suspended. And they've recently overturned the suspension. It could be that over 100,000 kids in that area are now COVID positive. So to the people that say that this shit isn't real, I'm not saying, yes, it does have like a 90, I think somewhere between 95 and 98% recovery rate. Awesome. That is true. If you're healthy, it's going to be tough, but you'll get past it, one hopes. If you have underlying conditions, you're screwed. So why are you going to bother trying to do that to somebody? You know, take the precautions that we need to take. That's all. I just don't understand it. And as for, while I'm on a little bit of a rant, let's talk about the constant stupidity of sensitivity. So you have so many people that are super sensitive right now. And this is going on everywhere. I don't disagree with 95% of it, okay? Pulling Gone with the Wind off of TV, that's tough. Because it was a time period piece, I guess you could say. Now, pulling Dukes of Hazzard off of TV, that one's kind of tough too. I get it, the rebel flag, I get it, but the show wasn't about the rebel flag. The show just happened to have a rebel flag on the coolest car, which was the star of the show. I don't know if that should have been taken off or if they could have digitally. There can't be that many episodes that you can digitally alter, possibly. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is for that. I do know that things like Gone with the Wind and other shows, I understand having a disclaimer for older stuff. I'm a huge wrestling fan, pro wrestling fan. There is some shit that went on in the late 80s, early 90s that is really embarrassing. There is a lot of really, really questionable stuff. Now, most of the time, the wrestlers agreed to it to a certain extent. There were some things that they said no, and you can look this up. Sometimes they said, no, that's too far. I don't want to do that. Sometimes they're like, you know what? I'm going to be on TV. I'm going to make money. And that's what it's really about, is they need to make a paycheck. And if they refuse, they're not going to go as far as maybe as if they agreed. Now, again, I don't necessarily agree or disagree with that because it's situational. You have to look at the situation. If they want a white guy to wear blackface and go out there, that's wrong. I would turn around and say, no. If you want to make a joke to have your character entice another person's character by saying something, Eddie Guerrero, somebody would make a sombrero comment about Eddie Guerrero. That's racist, but Eddie kind of allowed it because it would fuel that anger and that hatred and create the storyline and bring up the storyline. And I'm not saying that's right all the time, but there's also movies that were pointing out things. Mel Brooks, one of my favorite people. Mel Brooks created Blazing Saddles, a phenomenal movie. It has huge racist overtones in it. For a reason. He's trying to point out that these things are stupid with Mexicans and blacks and whites and the Asians that were helping build the railroad. Those are all things that happened in that time, and they're not trying to sensationalize it. They're trying to show you, like, this is how stupid this shit was. This is ridiculous. And they put a disclaimer on it, and just like I was watching with my kids Big Trouble in Little China, and they made me turn it off because they're like, oh, this is so horrible. I'm like, are you kidding me? Do you know how many Asian martial artists were employed by this movie? You know how many people in Chinatown in San Francisco were employed by this movie? And this was done purposefully, not to whitewash anything? To do that, and you're going to tell me that's racist? I just think everything's getting too sensitive. Even to the point now that NASA is changing the names of things like the Siamese twin galaxies because they want to be more sensitive. There's a certain point where you have to stop doing this. I mean, I get it. I see it now. I see things I know things I might have said when I was 12, 13 years old that might have been funny or acceptable in society, unacceptable today, and that's very good. That's a good thing because we don't want that to be allowed. But at the same time, you have to draw a line. You know, especially when it comes to comedy. I hold comedy very close to my heart. I think comedy is just a great art form. And we have brilliant people like Dave Chappelle that are just on a whole nother level of everybody else. And you need to understand that part of comedy is pointing out in a funny manner things that are wrong with the world. So that's not constantly browbeating. That's kind of what comedy does. George Carlin did it. W.C. Fields did it. I mean, there's just brilliant Cedric the Entertainer. They're just brilliant people. And then they have breakout people. And I think to sit there and just condone everything and have sensitivity training on everything, I don't think is absolutely needed. You know, it's just not. I don't know. There's enough Karens and Kevins in the world that we need to be a little bit more careful. So that's it for this week. I'm going to go put together another show and then maybe play some Ghost of Tsushima, which is phenomenal. That's it for this week. 10's down. Show's over.
So you can find more of this garbage at bgfgonline.com. You can also send us an email with your questions or suggestions at bgfgshow@gmail.com. Find our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Overcast, Podcast, Castro, Castbox, Podchaser, and YouTube. Thank you for listening.